Hey guys, Senza here, and welcome to another Shadowlands Alpha video. So in this video, I wanted to go over the 4 different Covenant abilities. With the latest build, they added a rotating change to Torghast for testing, to where each day you'll be able to test a new Covenant ability, even if their zone isn't in the game yet. So now that we've actually seen all 4 of them, we can kind of compare and rate them. We still don't have the soul binds and other stuff, so we can't say, just exactly which covenant you might want to pick just based solely on the active abilities alone, but we can at least rate and compare the active abilities. So for the first active ability, I'm going to go and show the Kyrian one. Let me do a little bit of explanation first. It's called Weapons of Order, and what it does is for the next 30 seconds after using this skill, your mastery is increased by 15%. And then it also will instantly reset Rising Sun Kick. Now, the next part does not work currently in Alpha, but your Rising Sun Kick is supposed to reduce the cost of your Chi abilities by 1 for 5 seconds. Now I've submitted a bug for this. I haven't really heard other people talk about it not working, so I'm not sure why, if I'm missing something, but I've looked multiple times, and whenever I use Rising Sun Kick, it does not reduce the cost of my Chi abilities. So, I'll try it again with like full Chi, but yeah, I haven't noticed that happening, and I've been looking. So let's just fight this rare real quick. Oh, somebody else is coming. Oh, never mind. Um, Weapons of Order. So you still cost 3 Chi. But you see you get this nice buff. You're like, well, I'm kind of glowing because of my Stormer Fire. But yeah, it's a pretty simple buff. The mastery increase is nice. The resetting of Rising Sun Kick is not really needed. But I suppose you could use it effectively. Oh boy, I'm gonna die. But yeah, I suppose you could use it effectively if you, there we go. If you use it at the right time, then the Rising Sun Kick, even though it's reset, you can use another ability and then use it right after. But it's cool. It's not anything super spectacular, but it can definitely be a strong ability depending on how monks, stats are in Shadowlands and all that. So now let's move on to the next Covenant ability. Alright, next we're going to talk about quite possibly my favorite of the monk abilities, and just one of my favorite abilities so far that I've played, at least in Alpha, and that's the Night Fae, Phaeline Stomp. So the Phaeline Stomp will strike the ground, and then for 30 seconds, it'll stay on the ground. The strike itself will do 60% of your attack power as nature damage. And if you're a Brewmaster, I think it ignites the enemies with Breath of Fire. If it's Mist Weaver, it heals allies with Essence Font. And if you're a Windwalker, it rips Chi and Energy Spears out. So basically, you put this thing on the ground, and then it'll do damage, different things depending on your spec, and also stay on the ground for 30 seconds, which I'm about to show on this tower sentinel. And also, while you're standing on the line, your abilities will have a 10% chance of resetting the cooldown of Phaeline Stomp. So, and look at just how cool that animation is. Like, that is one of the coolest effects ever. And the stomping thing is always cool, but as you see, it reset the cooldown, so I was able to do another one. But yeah, and it just looks so cool. And then while you're on it, like those yellow balls were the Chi spheres. The energy spheres. So it also allows you to kind of keep your energy up. It just seems really good right now. Of course, without numbers, we're not going to be able to really tell, but it definitely seems like the best, in my opinion, ability. Even numbers aside, it looks really cool. It's very effective no matter whether you're doing single target or AoE. It's just really nice. Now I haven't actually seen it on as a Brewmaster or Mistweaver, but igniting enemies with Breath of Fire as well, and healing people with Essence Font, it just seems very, very good. Um, Now, I apologize for the next ability. I do not actually have video of the Venthyr ability because um, I have a Revendreth monk at 59, which is the highest you can get right now in alpha. But for some reason, I can't log into it anymore. Whenever I try to log into it, I get disconnected. Um, so yeah, I can't actually show the ability, but rather trying to go through and get to the point where I unlock it again. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it because it's not, the visual isn't that much, like it's not that impressive. I mean, it's kind of cool, but anyway, let me just talk about it. So basically, it's the Venthyr ability is called Fallen Order, and what happens is that you open a mirror for 24 seconds, summoning reflections of your order's ox, crane, and tiger adepts for every 3 seconds for 6 seconds. And then the monks will do different things depending on their school. So the Ox monks will use Kick Smash, Crane monks will use Renewing Mist, and then the Tiger monks will use Fist of Fury. And as a Windwalker, the Tiger monks will also assist for an additional 2 seconds. So, and each, depending on what spec you are, that particular monk will last for 2 more seconds. Um, it's not that bad. I mean, it's kind of cool having some clone monks come out, but there are some issues with it. It's like some people um, seem to really like the ability, and I don't think it's a bad ability, but I don't think it looks as cool as like the Phalanx Stomp. And it's just you just using just a cooldown, and then you spawn a bunch of monks that are coming out the mirror. In my opinion, it's not that cool. Not only that, it's apparently, at least when it came out. I'm not sure about recently, but it was it's kind of bugged with Storm Earth Fire and Serenity. So with Storm Earth Fire active, those Fallen Order monks actually did less damage, and with Serenity active, um, those Fallen Order monks actually did more damage. So I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. I assume it's a bug, but right now it just doesn't feel that great to use. But now we're going to move on to the last Covenant ability. Alright, and finally we come to the Necrolord ability. Now, Bone Dust Brew is a pretty interesting ability. It was clearly designed for AoE. So what it does is you hurl a brew, and all enemies, it coats all enemies for 10 seconds. As you see, is a big area on the ground. And what happens is it gives you a 15% chance for all your abilities to affect a target a second time, at 25% of the damage as shadow damage or healing. So that's great for both DPS, for all of them, because it's the monk ability for the whole class. So as a DPS, that allows you to potentially hit everybody, with your AoE abilities twice. It also using Spinning Crane Kick will also refund 1 chi when striking enemies that have Bone Dust Brew on them. So, you throw that in there on a big pack, use Spinning Crane Kick, and then you don't have to use as much. Using Fist of Fury, other AoE abilities have a chance to activate a second time. And it's on a 1 minute cooldown. So let's just go ahead and show that real quick. Let's pull this group right here. And yeah, throws this brew on the ground. As you see, it doesn't cost as much. But yeah, it's an interesting ability. I can definitely see it being really good for AoE. But still has single target applications as well, because being able to strike a target a second time is, that's good damage. That's using Fist of Fury or like Rising Sun Kick, and it's hitting twice. And I usually don't actually go for talk about the general abilities, but Fleshcraft is actually really interesting as a general ability for the Necrolord, and that it gives you an absorb shield equal to 20% of your maximum health. And if you channel near a corpse, then it can give you up to 50% of your maximum health, and it's most effective against powerful enemies. So this gives me right now as 5109 damage. I've had like over 6,000, so it's it can get pretty good. And this is really nice because that's another absorb shield. Like that's a good defensive, so it's going to be good for like world content as well. So overall, I would say my favorite and the one that I'm most likely going to pick, just based on the abilities alone, or Night Fae. Well, based on the abilities and a few other things. So the Night Fae, as you saw earlier, the Phaeline Stomp is just so cool. It's definitely my favorite of the new abilities. And the Vulpine little like travel form basically is kind of cool, um, but it's not something I care too much about. But it's still kind of nice, and I actually kind of like the transmog. It's funny because I didn't think that Night Fae that would probably be the one that I liked the least, but it ended up being like the best in my opinion. Of course, with numbers and everything, and we don't have the um, we don't have the soul binds or anything like that and other stuff to go into seeing it, but just based on the way that it looks, the more information that I got about Night Fae, uh, and the uh, transmogs, yeah, I personally think that Night Fae is the best for monk at least. At least it feels the best. So we'll have to see when everything is available. But that's all for my video going over all the Covenant abilities that are for Monk at least. If you liked the video, please give a like and subscribe. I'll be doing more videos once I'm able to test out all of the different Covenant abilities for other classes. And as always, thanks for watching.